When you are graphing a line in slope-intercept form, you need to, and this sounds kind of silly to say, and probably you're not going to want to make marks all over it like that, you need to know the values of the slope and the intercept. And remember, this is the y-intercept. So it's where the the line crosses the y-axis. Some people are finding the intercept, but they're treating that as the x-intercept. When I look at this, these are in y equals mx plus b form. Now they may switch it around, y equals b plus mx. But what I'm going to do is I'm always going to look for the constant, whether the constant is second or the constant is first. That constant is my y-intercept. So in this case, it's a negative 2. That's my start value. And then the coefficient of the x term, the number that's in front of the x, not the x itself, but the coefficient of the x term is always my slope. So in this case, the coefficient of x is a positive 3 over 4. Rate of change is slope. And starting value is y-intercept. Now, the reason that the slope helps me, slope is rise over run. This one's already written as a fraction. So my rise is positive 3. My run is positive 4. Which means I need to go to negative 2 on the y-axis and put a point. From that point, I will go up 3, so 3 rise towards the positive, and then run 4 in the positive direction, which would be to the right. Which means when I get ready to put my axes in, reminder that you need arrows at both ends of an axis. Do not forget your arrows. You're not drawing segments, you're drawing lines. So I need to get to negative 2, but then I'm going to go up from there. So I can put this axis fairly far down. Again, I would use a straight edge if I wasn't doing it on here. So make sure you're using a ruler or another straight edge as you graph this. Arrows at both ends are required. I'm going to go to the right 4 from the y-axis. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So I need to make sure I can get over to positive 4 here, which means I'm going to take my y-axis and put it a little bit over to the left, making sure I can get over to positive 4 here. Now, to actually graph my point, my starting value is negative 2, so that's negative 2 on the y-axis. No one's going to know that that is negative 2 on the y-axis unless, if this is my origin, this line would represent a negative 1 y value, this line would represent a y value of negative 2. Notice my scale is not on the axis itself, it's to the left of the axis, and then it's right directly on each grid line. My rise is positive 3, so from this point I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and then my run tells me where I'm going side to side. I'm going positive 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've got my second point. Again, people aren't going to know what that point is unless I went up to 1 on y, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4 on x. So you have to have that much of your scale in. Once you have that, now you're ready to draw your line in. Needs to go through those 2 points. You need to draw it with a straight edge, and you need to put arrows on the ends of the line. So that is the first one. Be careful with your straight edge, be careful with your arrows, and make sure that you write your scale in appropriately. The starting value in this case, again, is the constant. The constant is positive 3. The rate of change is the coefficient of x. It's negative 5. It is not negative 5x. It's only the coefficient of x. But if I want to think in terms of what my rise is going to be and what my run is going to be, negative 5 doesn't look like a fraction. All I see is one number. But I can turn any number into a fraction by putting it over 1. So my rise is negative 5. My run is positive 1. So I'm going to start at positive 3 on the y-axis, and I'm going to go down from there because my rise is negative. So when I draw my axis in, I'm going to need to make sure that I can get up to positive 3. So I'm going to go down about this far. I've got plenty of room to get to positive 3 now. I'm going to, from there, go down 5 and over 1. So I have a lot of flexibility with where my y-axis is because I only need to go over 1 to the right from it. Now, you should be drawing this directly on the grid line, and if it will allow me to select it, I can kind of rotate this a little bit. Get it scooched over where it belongs. Arrows at the ends of my axes, use a straight edge to get them there. Now, I need to go up to positive 3 on the y-axis because that's my start value. So positive 1, positive 2, positive 3. From there, I'm going to rise negative 5, which means to go down 5. Run positive 1, so go to the right 1. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right 1. Put my scale in there, my scale numbers in there, and then go ahead and draw the line through those 2 points. One thing to pay attention to, the rate of change was negative on this problem, so this line fell as it went from left to line right across the graph. This slope was positive, so this line rose as it went from left to right across the graph. It's one thing you want to be careful of as you're doing these. Now, one of the challenges on this one is we see the coefficient of x, which is our rate of change, so that's 4, which means our rise and our run, we can turn that into a fraction. The rise is 4, the run is 1, but I don't see a number, I don't see a constant out here. This is the same thing as y equals 4x plus 0, which means my starting value is actually 0. So this line is actually going to go through the origin. I'm going to go up 4 from there and to the right 1. So again, I have a little bit of flexibility with where I put my x and y axes, arrows at the ends of them, using a straight edge to draw them in. The y-intercept is actually 0, so this line goes through my origin. From there, I'm going to rise 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 in the positive direction, run 1 in the positive direction. I have a positive slope because this line rises as it goes from left to right. I need to put my scale numbers in, up to my point and over to my point, and then I can go ahead and draw my line through those 2 points using my straight edge. That is graphing in slope-intercept form. Thank you.